Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm throwing caution to the wind, and I'm running a triple whale team in the Open Great League. Is this team good for the Open Great League? Absolutely not. Should you run 3 whales in the Open Great League? Never in a million years. However, against all odds, I was able to get some pretty fun wins with the team. This team features Whalemore on the lead with Wailord and my new Great League rank 15 Dondozo in the back. Now this team shares a massive amount of weaknesses, so getting even a single win with this team is going to be quite the challenge. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game number 1, we pick up a pretty okay lead, Whalemore into Swampert. My opponent safe switches into Fearow, and the only way that play makes sense is if my opponent is running Swampert double flyer. If they're running an ABB team, then they feel like they need to safe switch into Fearow to check and see if I have a flying counter. But I have a rollout Whalemore, so I'm more than happy just to stay in this matchup and play it out. My Body Slam gets shielded, I'm already at Body Slam number 2, and just like that, I've gotten some very good damage onto the Fearow. Considering I have 3 water types, switch advantage doesn't really matter a lot for me here. Instead, what I would much rather get is big farm on Dondozo. My opponent is going to be pivoting back into the Shadow Swampert, but even a Sludge is not going to do a ton of damage here, even though this is the Shadow Swampert. They go for Hydro Cannon, so it looks like my opponent is not running Sludge and instead is running Earthquake, but Earthquake is obviously just very expensive to get to. Dondozo lands the Surf, gets the Waterfall down, and exits with a ton of energy as my opponent reveals their final Pokemon is Shadow Toucanon. This Toucanon is down energy, down shields, and it's in quite a bit of trouble. Dondozo should be able to make the last second move. They try to go for the catch, and I'm not going to let that happen. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We get another Mudboy lead in game number 2, this time leading into Shadow Quagsire. My opponent again safe switches into Fearow, so I don't know who ended up making a Mudboy plus Fearow safe switch team, but whoever did, I'm very, very grateful, because Whalemore is really liking that duo. Fearow will be able to connect for some pretty significant damage with the Drill Peck, and I'm going to go for an undercharge on this Body Slam. Ideally, I want to try and leave the Fearow at 1 HP and put them into rollout down range, so that way I exit with a little bit of extra residual energy. So Fearow gets KO'd, I have switch advantage, but switch advantage is not going to help me a lot in a matchup where I have 3 water types. I'm able to make it to the Scald, Quagsire puts up the shield, Scald gets the debuff, and that bit of good luck lets me get a parting gift as I make the last second Body Slam. Body Slam lands, Quagsire gets the farm down, Quagsire now going to be debuffed. I send in Dondozo, they pivot out to reset the debuff, and their final Pokemon is revealed to be Corviknight. Corviknight has so much energy. I'm just going to be no-shielding the Wailord, forcing them to go for the payback, and they do full send. My opponent can now go for the Air Cutter. Air Cutter is not going to knock me out, but it will get the Wailord pretty low. Going for Double Surf would be the safe play, but I want to go for the Home Run Ball. So I'm full sending the Blizzard. Blizzard gets shielded by the Corviknight as that play backfires in a massive way. In comes the Quagsire to snipe me down. Quagsire has a monstrous amount of energy, and they reset the Scald debuff from earlier. Quagsire full sends the Stone Edge. My goal is just to keep the Dondozo as healthy as humanly possible, because Dondozo is very, very bulky. Unfortunately, my Surf does not take the knockout, Quagsire barely able to hang on and make a second Stone Edge. And now this game is going to get interesting, because I'm going to make a Surf into the Corviknight, but Surf is just simply not going to take the KO. Dondozo is very bulky, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. My opponent will probably go for the Air Cutter here to try and fish for a boost. So Corviknight fires off the Air Cutter. Air Cutter does get the boost. It all comes down to this. Does a boosted payback knock me out? I think the answer is no. My opponent's going to try for 2 more Air Cutters, but they don't get there. Dondozo gets the farm down and takes the win. We move to the next match, and unfortunately, we automatically lose the game as I lead the triple whale team into a Chargeabug. This is absolutely awful. Chargeabug destroys this entire team. Rollout does hit this Chargeabug for super effective damage, but I'm still in such a negative spot. I did get the Scald debuff though, which is quite lucky. My opponent is going to go for the Discharge on alignment, and that gives me a free rollout sneak. So my opponent threw both of their charge stacks on suboptimal timing, and I'm hoping that can maybe give me an advantage in this game. I fire off the Scald, Chargeabug barely survives, my opponent is going to safe switch into Shadow Drapion, and unfortunately I don't have a good answer to Drapion on this team. So I'm just going to stay in with the Whalemore and try for a catch. So I farm up, switch into the Wailord, and I catch what should only be an Aquatail. Wailord is probably the glassiest Pokemon on this team. I think even Whalemore has better bulk than it, but by catching the Aquatail, I'm pretty confident they can't land a Crunch and farm me down. Well, they wouldn't be able to until that Crunch defense drop. I got the Scald debuff, they got the Crunch defense drop. My opponent pivots into Chargeabug, but that's kind of an odd play because all it did was give me farm. My opponent has two of the worst Pokemon that the whales could see in Chargeabug and Empoleon. But they've made a few misplays throughout the course of this game, and that is still keeping me in it. I send in the Wailmer. Wailmer barely hangs on to make a last-second Scald. This is going to be putting my opponent into the yellow HP. I get another Scald debuff. The luck is definitely with me, but to win this game, I'm going to need to be able to farm down the Drapion. In comes Drapion, and the moment I see that waterfall damage land, I realize that I can't farm it down. They land the Crunch. That does do substantial damage. I fire off the Surf instantly just to not take any additional damage, but I know that by switching out and resetting that attack drop from the Scald, my opponent is going to be able to win this game. We got so close to beating a Chargeabug Empoleon duo, but unfortunately, it was just too much for the whales, and Empoleon farms down. Hopping into the next match, leading Wailmer into Magcargo. This is the dream lead. My entire team completely destroys Magcargo. They throw an Incinerate, save switch into Guzzlord, and this is basically the best start to a game that I could ever ask for. I know that no matter if I have switch advantage or not, no matter where the Magcargo is aligned, Magcargo is absolutely no play. So, I don't ever really have a reason to pivot out of here. Instead, I'm just going to try and get this Guzzlord as low as I possibly can with the Wailmer. So Wailmer is going to win the CMP tie, body slam to the Brutal Swing. Wailmer, I imagine, is probably getting knocked out here by the Brutal Swing. No, Wailmer hangs on 1 HP. And you know what? Let's send in the Wailord. I think that I'm going to go for a 1 shield farm down here. I'm going to have to shield 1 and tank 1. But if I can exit with enough energy, my opponent is never ever going to want to bring in Magcargo. They're going to have to bring in their third, and that means that the Magcargo is going to get aligned to the Waterfall Dondozo in the back. So Wailord sacrifices almost its entire health bar for a massive energy head start, and my opponent reveals their final Pokemon is Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff shields up the Surf, but Wailord is absolutely loaded. Here's Surf number 2 following shortly thereafter. They no shield, but now the reveal, the third whale. Go Dondozo! I'm really not going to be shielding here, because I know that a Rock Tomb is going to do more than a Swift, and my opponent even goes for the Icy Wind. Oh, that is going to end up backfiring as Dondozo is just going to fully farm them down. There's just no way out. Magcargo is absolutely cornered. They fire off the Swift. In comes Magcargo, and this is game over. Even a -1 Surf, it's going to be securing the knockout onto Magcargo. But you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun with it. I'm going to go for an undercharge on the Surf to leave them alive, to get the catch onto the Wailord. We're having some fun with it, because winning this game means that my first set with triple whales will actually be a positive one. We waterfall down that Wigglytuff, and that is a good game. We pick up a terrible lead in the next match. Wailmer into Primeape. Now, Primeape is a really big problem because I don't have any fast move pressure here available with the Wailmer. I'm going to be no shielding, calling a Rage Fist. My opponent calls my bluff and full sends the close combat. They safe switch into Noctowl. I'm going to be firing off the Scald just to get a little bit of chip damage, and then I'm going to need to send in the Wailord. Wailord just going to look to farm up basically to the back-to-back charge attacks. My opponent is forced to fire off their energy at kind of an awkward time, because if they overfarmed, then I could have connected with the Surf, and they would have lost the energy or had to give up the shield. So I farm to 100 energy, CMP tying the Noctowl, and Surf will easily be securing the KO. Back in comes the Primeape. Primeape's going to get shredded by this Surf. They're going to be forced to put up the shield. The nice thing about Wailord is I actually don't think I get farmed down here, and that means that I'm able to make a second Surf right before I fall to the Karate Chop damage. So the Surf is going to land. I pivot in the Dondozo. Waterfall goes through. They have a ton of energy, but they're only going to get one move because they just got KO'd by the Waterfall. In the back is Fearow, and Dondozo can win the ones against Fearow. I'm even up a little bit of energy as well, so this game is over. It really doesn't matter what Fearow does. They can fire off the Drill Peck. Dondozo is just too bulky. Dondozo shakes off the damage. Fearow is going to make a second Drill Peck, but I still have the shield to hide behind. You know what? In the theme of having a little bit of fun, we're actually going to overfarm and go for the outrage into the Fearow, and the whales take down another meta team. Let's go. Outrage KOs Fearow, and that is a good game. We move to the next match, leading Wailmer into Jellicent, and this is arguably worse than the Chargeabug and Empoleon core that I saw earlier. Jellicent, I have no ability to even hit it for neutral damage amongst my charge attacks. Well, I guess with the exception of Outrage, but unfortunately, I don't have Dondozo aligned onto this Jellicent, so I'm in such a tough spot. I'm going to be shielding up the Shadow Ball and basically just hoping for a Scald debuff. It looked like my opponent ended up lagging a turn at the start, so they didn't actually CMP tie or get the sneak that they should have. My Scalds do not get the debuff. That is really unfortunate. That's not what I'm hoping to see. Shadow Ball absolutely crushes Wailmer. In comes Dondozo. I'm just going to go for a 1-shield farm down with the Dondozo. I'm in a really bad spot. I'm down 2 shields, but at the very least, I have Dondozo energy. But unfortunately, that's going to go nowhere as my opponent is running a Azumarill. Man, I really wish I had my Magnezone right about now, because Magnezone would have absolutely sent Jellicent plus Azumarill packing. But unfortunately, we have 3 whales. We do not have a Magnezone, and our whales are having a pretty terrible time against Azumarill. I pivot into the Wailord, saving energy on the Dondozo with the hope that Dondozo energy will be super effective into whatever they have in the back. Azumarill lands the Play Rough, and there's just really no way out, especially not when they get the catch onto Jellicent. Oh my goodness. I was already in like a strictly losing position, but losing that charge attack unfortunately just makes my position even worse. Back in comes the Azumarill. I still don't even know what they have in the back. I still haven't even forced a shield away from them. I'm going to farm up here, and I will get a catch back onto the Wailmer, but I'm still just in such an incredibly bad spot. Play Rough will KO the Wailmer. I still have a ton of energy on the Dondozo, but I know that my opponent is not in surf range, so this is very, very tough. I send in the Wailord. Wailord going to farm up in the back. Oh, I've never seen a bulkier team in my entire life. There's a Licky back there. Jellicent, Azu, Licky. And unfortunately, my poor whales, there's just no way for them to win this game. Surf is going to be shielded up by the Licky, but I can't even waterfall the Azumarill into surf range before the Azumarill is able to make a move. So I bring back in the Dondozo, fire off the surf. I don't even think that the Licky is in outrage range either. And the Licky will get to fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam will not knock out. Dondozo is very bulky, but I've been kind of delaying the inevitable here for a while. In comes the Azumarill. I fire off the surf. And this is a red HP Azumarill. Surf still not KOing. Surf lands, Azumarill hangs on, and that opponent, I tried my best, I really did. They just had too much bulk, and the match timer counts down as I lose that game. Wailmer into Galarian Weezing in the next match. Now, Galarian Weezing is a pretty cool pick. Weezing will be able to outpace me here, as they will fire off the Sludge. They should be 2 off the next Sludge, so I should be pretty safe to throw 1 at a Scald. So I'm going to do just that. Scald is not going to knock out, but it'll do big damage, and I can hope for a debuff. Scald lands onto the Weezing, no debuff. My opponent should have thrown 1 in the move there, but doesn't. Now they're forced to burn a shield or lose the Weezing. They no shield, they get knocked out, but unfortunately, my opponent reveals a Pokemon that instantly loses me the game as they have a Morpeko. Unfortunately, this is just game over until they no shield a Body Slam. Maybe there's actually a chance, and they keep farming. I make a second Body Slam. Is there ever a world in which a triple whale team can survive Morpeko? Morpeko can knock out with the Psychic Fangs, but the correct play would be just to go for the Aura Wheel. This way, they are boosted. And a +1 Dark Aura Wheel is going to inflict devastating damage onto Dondozo. My opponent throws 4 on the move. I have to hope Dondozo is bulky enough to survive. Aura Wheel lands. Dondozo hangs on, but not by much. In the back is Zweilous, and now I have to hope that my opponent doesn't know their Dondozo counts. I don't have enough for the outrage, but they shield anyway, and then I can send in Wailord. There's actually a chance we might be able to win this game. Zweilous launches a charge attack. I'm not going to be shielding, and it's going to be the Dark Pulse. I just need the Blizzard, but I lose charge attack priority, and that is bad. Morpeko has a charge attack banked, and by giving up my final shield, Morpeko's going to knock out the Wailord, and I'm going to need Dondozo, which is very low, to survive a Thunder Shock if I want to win this game. It all comes down to this. Back in comes Morpeko, firing off the Psychic Fangs. That's going to be KOing the Wailord. They change forms. In comes Dondozo. We survive on 1 HP, and somehow the triple whale team defeats Morpeko. Hopping to the final match, Wailmer into Murkrow. This is a very nice lead. I'm just going to be firing off the Body Slam as soon as I get it. I just want chip damage onto this Pokemon. Murkrow is incredibly oppressive damage-wise, but I'm pretty confident that I can survive a Drill Peck. So I no shield, Drill Peck lands, and I should be able to make the last second Body Slam, but my opponent makes a very nice catch onto Annihilape. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to send in the Dondozo because this is my only source of fast move pressure. Dondozo farming up, my opponent tries to CMP tie the Dondozo, but Dondozo is 5 to the first, not 4 to the first, so I'm able to get an entire waterfall for free. Now I'm going to throw in good charge attack timing, throwing 1 waterfall and the move. Surf lands, waterfall KOs, and Annihilape, because of that poor timing decision, falls short of the energy needed to make that second Rage Fist. My opponent reveals their final Pokemon in the back is a Gyarados, but it is not the Shadow Gyarados, it's the regular Gyarados, and it's on Crunch. I farm up a massive amount of energy. I'm baiting with the Surf because even a Surf would do a lot of damage to the Gyarados. Gyarados will put up the shield. I make Surf number 2. This will be doing considerable damage, and then I should be able to hopefully close out the game with Wailord. In comes Wailord. Rollout goes through as my opponent fires off energy, but Wailord just does not care. Gyarados goes for the Crunch. They do not get the debuff. Wailord just looking for the farm down. Can't quite get it, but I now have the Surf loaded. This rollout will KO the Gyarados. I can just click the Surf into the Murkrow, and Murkrow was one off the move. You can't see him P-tie a move you do not have, and that is a good game. Man, I definitely got away with some wins that I never should have had with this team. But as kind of a fun team to run in rank 18 before I did get elo, I had an absolute blast. Somehow the first set that I ran with this team was actually positive. It was a 3-2 set. The 2 sets that were after that may not have been positive, but I was very happy that I was able to get some wins that I really feel like this team had no business winning. Especially the game against the Morpeko. This team on paper should just get fully 1v3 swept by a Morpeko and never see another Mon. The Morpeko, when it came in, actually had a shield advantage as well, but my opponent choosing not to invest in Morpeko HP, assuming that if I'm leading a Wailmer, I have a decent check to it at the back, actually ended up benefiting me. And that's something that can happen kind of in blind threes a lot more than it can happen in like a show 6 pick 3 setting. Because if you know my team is 3 whales, you're always going to be protecting the Morpeko. But if you see a water type on the lead, you correctly assume, or at least most of the time correctly assume, that I should have electric resistances in the back, because otherwise it's kind of just a bad team. But in this case, it is a bad team. It's 3 whales. They end up no shielding the body slam. We end up waterfalling down a Morpeko to take the win. I'm a little sad that I wasn't able to get the win versus the Jellicent. I feel like I tried to make that game as close as I possibly could, but they just had so much bulk in the back that unfortunately I wasn't quite able to overcome that. But this team was an incredible amount of fun. I'm very excited that Dondozo got buffed this season. Dondozo's been a supporting cast member in a video already, and surprise, surprise, it's returning. Dondozo is a Pokemon that upon release was quickly one of my favorites amongst the new Pokemon, and I'm very happy that it's beginning to get a lot more playable in the Go Battle League. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide to the channel is so sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.